get going. This is one of the talks I've been most excited about, mainly because I have seen the journey that John has been on from almost the beginning of this beautiful movement called Refi, regenerative finance. It has been something that I was immediately attracted to when looking and thinking about regenerative villages and what are the tools at our disposal that can help us build, coordinate, raise money, have distributed governance amongst large groups of people. And the Web3 space has been fascinating in that it's given us a lot of opportunity to do things slightly differently than we have done beforehand. And meeting John probably over a year and a half ago or so, and we were thinking we would, he'll tell us a little bit more about that, but we created a wonderful event here called Refi Spring. We have been in support of this wonderful movement, but the person who has really stepped in to spearhead and to bring people together and to do the difficult heavy lifting of really trying to understand the complexities of the Web3 space and bring it to everybody in a way that's accessible and clear has been this man. He's a dear brother of mine. I have seen his big heart, his tenderness, and yet at the same time, his capacity for holding space in some of the most difficult environments. He's a phenomenal speaker, and I'm really excited to bring him into our wonderful world of Rebuild. And John and Refi DAO are the co-hosts of the Prosperity Stage. And this is beyond just profit. This is beyond the idea of thinking about finance. It is thinking about the entire financial system more as nature. And John's gonna take us into a deep dive and imagining this new world that we can create together. And so maybe if you could all just unmute yourselves and give a little round of applause for this wonderful man.
That's hilarious. I love it. Thanks for the cheer, Dan. Oh, thanks, Josh. Appreciate you guys.
Let's go for it. Thank you, John.
Cool. So have we got 40 minutes? Have we got an hour? What's the clock, Jeremy?
We have 40 minutes. That's good.
Awesome. Well, good to see everybody with their cameras on. Thanks for the heartwarming intro, Jeremy. Super humbled to be here. It feels like Rebuild is a gathering of a bunch of pioneers across many different sectors, and it's great to have a chance to think through my journey and the insights that I've gained in a different way. And I've really recreated this entire talk from scratch for this audience, given the context and the community that's emerging, but also given some recent insights I've had in my own healing journey that have really revealed to me the relationship between what I call inner regeneration and outer regeneration. And so what I'm going to share with you today is kind of, deep dive into some of the vision of how we can create a network of cities and villages that will regenerate the earth. And I will give us some time at the end for folks to chime in and ask questions. There's a bit of a dialogue here that I think is helpful to unpack some of these ideas, which can be inherently complex unless you articulate them in your own way. But then we've also got a really amazing panel coming up shortly after this with some pioneers. Sam from TDF, obviously, Jeremy, you're over there now, one of the founders of CityDAO and one of the founders of Cabin DAO, all having different takes of how to implement this in the real world and actually doing this with real soil. So there you go, inner development goals. That's what's up. You're on the same page. Good to have you. Cool. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm actually going to have us do a little bit of a meditation in a bit. So probably not what y'all anticipated, but something I really enjoyed doing to get myself into heart center. But yeah, this is my talk, the story of how healing villages and cities can form a network that will regenerate people and the planet. I say it with a positive conviction of hope because I'm seeing it now and the reality is coming. So here we go. People thought Bitcoin was big, right? Peer-to-peer internet money with no banks in the middle reached $1 trillion market cap in 2022. Well, how about money that actually heals the earth? What size of opportunity is this? Now, From this lens, I really do see a new Earth emerging in startup cities and villages all around the world. I've had the great fortune of supporting over 35 events in pioneering areas in both the global North and the global South, and starting to see these communities meet regularly, gather capital, and build an ecosystem approach to localized regeneration connected to an online community with the most powerful tools of our time. But before we begin, I think it's really helpful to just pause for a sec. Probably been on a screen for a little bit. It's on the weekend. So I'm going to play a little bit of a track. Actually, don't know if I shared my audio, so I'll just reshare real quick. And just invite ourselves to close our eyes for about 2 minutes here. And then I'll guide us into things. So give me a thumbs up if you guys can hear the track playing. Should be popping here in just a sec. Let's go. Maybe Spotify isn't playing. All right. Music is not going to join us today. We'll just do it in silence. That's all right. You guys can see my screen with Regeneration Begins Within. Yeah, Eugenio, thumbs up. Cool. So just invite us to close our eyes wherever you are. If you've been sitting for a while, you can even stand up and move your body. And try and just put your hand on heart center and feel the rush of breath coming in through your nose as you breathe, a nice deep inhalation. And let it out as you exhale, and sense a small smile come on to your face, recognizing the joy of being alive and the miracle of all that you have and all that you are. The journey that you've taken to arrive at this place, all of the ups and downs and twists and turns, taking you to this moment in this conference, guided by your heart's desire, your curiosity to build a better future. And as you breathe, you can become aware of the space around you, hearing any sounds coming into your eardrums, feeling your heartbeat if it's strong enough. And then you can visualize in your mind's eye all the other 20-some people here with you today, tuned into this moment, participating in this meditation. There is a new Earth emerging all over the world. And you're not alone. We're in this together. So I invite you to take one final deep breath, shake out your body, wiggle your fingers and your toes, and we can get going now, huh? All right, here's an overview of our time together. I'm going to do a quick single slide about me so you know my background, where I'm coming from. I'm going to introduce a vision for a new nation, a network state founded on the principles of regeneration. I'm going to talk about how we are scaling local nodes, the key atom in the network state architecture, and then transition to a new economic and cultural story, and actually invite you to participate in this in local events near you, not traveling far, but coming somewhere close to home. So this is our structure for our time today. Super, super quick. I am a proud husband and father of 2 young boys. I've been doing startups since I was 16, had the high highs and low lows of startup success and failure. I've got my shit rocked, and I've had businesses sold everywhere in between. I'm a really bad impact investor, no returns yet, but I love throwing my money at, for-profit, for-planet businesses. And I'm a really bad smallholder. I tried growing food and doing animals and all that. Man, I'm way better with computers, but living the life in community on the land was a super big eye opener for me about my own healing journey and areas that I needed to grow. I'm certified by a professor named Dr. BJ Fogg to teach how to design for lasting behavior change in any environment. Done consulting for major pharmaceutical companies, redesigning type 2 diabetes business models for patients instead of just slinging pills. And I've had the great opportunity, as Jeremy said, to experience the explosion of innovation at the intersection of climate and Web3 between 2021 and late 2022. I saw 24 million tons of VCUs flow on chain as a result of the Ponzi coin KlimaDAO, and saw the utter lack of integrity of the voluntary carbon market as these carbon assets that promised a regenerative future really failed to live up to their potential. And we saw the huge volume of fraudulent credits lying dormant in the market being issued, brought on chain, and realizing that a lot of this stuff is completely vacuous. And recognize that if we want to heal the earth, we've got to redesign the exact systems of value exchange that we're proposing to use. And so it's with this framing that I've seen this vision for a Refi DAO, a network state to regenerate the earth, a global online community rooted in local startup cities and villages all over the world. So imagine this for a second. It might sound outlandish, a global network state to regenerate the earth, but what if in every major startup city around the world, San Francisco, New York City, Amsterdam, Berlin, Lisbon, Bogota, Nairobi, Hong Kong, you name it, a local impact DAO emerges with a single unified mission of regenerating the city and the land around it. And not only is this impact DAO a DAO, but it's a village, it's a tribe, it's like a family. These people meet and eat regularly. They know each other, they take care of each other, and they have fun. And people can apply to an unconditional basic income in this context because there's so much abundance flowing in this village in the heart of a city that we can meet people's basic needs unconditionally. And where the rite of passage, the entry point into these villages, is a healing ceremony, a deep dive into the heart center using pioneering heart medicine, where you can connect with your higher self and your lower self is online the whole time. I can tell you more about this story at another time. I've just gone through one of these ceremonies. And upon entry into this system, into the regenerative village at the heart of your city, you get a token, a physical token, with a customizable case that gives you NFC access to physical places. This token itself is both a hardware wallet and your decentralized identifier. It has biometric sensors and an open sandbox that members in the network can build software to interact with this thing, to create an application surface for people who build new products leveraging this technology. It's Bluetooth and Wi-Fi enabled, and it provides the user the ability to own their own data in a backpack that they carry and control, rolled up with zero-knowledge proofs. And this token unlocks an app, a super app, a WeChat for the regenerative economy, the gateway to regeneration both locally and globally. It is powered by a massive knowledge graph of all the people, projects, content, deals, and ideas about regeneration. And all you have to do is ask a question. Powered by open AI tools, you can learn anything about how you can employ your talent and your capital towards the greatest problems of our time. This app has role-based access controls, so you can control who can access what resources in your local startup city and all around the world. This protocol itself is member-owned. It is by and for the members. It has no incentives to extract. It is for the people. And this app allows a coordination layer where any business can actually incentivize people to take specific actions for their product that they're plugging into this app, whatever it be. And that all of the content is localized and contextualized so that it's relevant for people based upon where they are and who they are in their language in a way that makes sense to them. And in the same way that the hardware has an SDK so people can build on top of this, this app has an SDK. So you can create whatever app you could possibly think of and plug into it. So this acts as a passport to this new economy. Here are some building blocks that we are looking at in Lisbon here today. At the heart of this is clean energy. Nuclear fusion seems like a long way away, but if you've seen the recent announcement at Lawrence Livermore National Labs, they've actually got energy positive experiments of clean energy happening today. Yes, the CapEx is massive, billions of dollars, but there are loads of private companies pioneering this. So let's just imagine for a second that at the heart of these local nodes is a micro fusion reactor that can power clean, infinite, abundant energy for thousands, tens of thousands of households. And on top of this, we can pioneer a sovereign internet with hardware systems that provide Wi-Fi for hundreds of thousands of people for less than $20 a year each. The kinds of savings of switching off of Comcast or 3 or Vodafone or whatever it is and going onto a locally owned sovereign internet is 100x. You got co-working spaces, retreat centers, a regenerative venture studio that's actually building an ecosystem of businesses supporting the local economy, a culture studio to capture media and events to really propagate the culture of the future, and physical maker labs where people can build the stuff that we need, play with the passport, play with the physical token, extend it, try new things. And at the heart of all of this is a healing center that takes people's heart as art and teaches them how to express their truest gifts. And last but not least, we need homes where people can gather long-term and short-term to really become part of this family. This is not just for us. This is a multi-generational village. We need elders. We need our Yodas and our Jedis, the young people of tomorrow who are struggling with mental health. We've got to bring them on, and we got to have a rite of passage that works for all of these people, that is accessible and open for all. We can cluster the disciplines of these various people into founders guilds, foresters guilds, renewable energy guilds, whatever the discipline needs to be. We can raise capability. Fuck schools. Fuck standing in a line, sitting at a desk, listening to a teacher, following a curriculum. Let's build the future of tomorrow, today. So this might sound a bit outlandish, but we are doing this. We are fucking doing this in Lisbon. We meet every single month on the third Thursday. Follow us on Twitter at Refi Lisboa. We are gathering the entire network on November 14th, 2023 to celebrate the birth of a new nation in startup cities all around the world, covering inner and outer regeneration and really breaking the bubble of this Web3 space, the regenerative space, whatever it is. We want to bring in the leaders of for-profit, nonprofit, government officials, bring in indigenous stewards, and really create a new culture and a new community that can actually solve the depth of these catastrophic challenges we face. So here's a little map. We've got a bit of a start of a canvas here. We're getting these things going, and we're developing a membership proposition. We have a venture studio and a physical place, Avenida de Liberdade, a healing arts center, a first residency, a performing arts center, and a co-working space with a maker lab coming soon. Oh, damn, that sucks. Part of the slide didn't come through. That's all good. This was the TDF map. And we're looking at how to partner with Traditional Dream Factory so that we can actually raise money and help them acquire land to extend the amazing regenerative village experiment that they are pioneering. Here's a closer look at the hypothesis here. This is an expression of what the local node could be, not what it is, but just a thought. If we raised $1 to $1.5 million, we could acquire 25 hectares next to TDF, engage a forestry project developer, and not only plant trees, but make it a revenue generating place for communities to gather, to camp, to glamp, to be in nature together with flowing water and abundant clean energy, renewable solar energy financed by a forward contract pool on chain, so that we can not only issue carbon credits as a yield, but also RECs, even biodiversity credits with acoustic sensors, water purification credits. This stuff is happening. We have the startups here in our ecosystem. We just need to plug and play. And yes, it's a small scale, but if we do this with local academics and local government institutions, we can showcase this at COP as soon as this year or next and show all of the nations of the world, hey, this is how you do it. This is how you create open, permissionless, transparent systems to regenerate your city and the land around it. We are not an enemy to you. We're not an adversary. We are a part of you, and we're accelerant to a regenerative future that you do not know how to create alone. So join us. How do you actually build this, though? How do you make this all happen at one point in time? Check this out. We've raised a small venture fund, 2 to 2.5 million. We're closing on docs now. We're partnering with some of the best designers in the world on the studio and on the curriculum. Check out the folks at We3 and IDEO Collab Ventures. We're building our studio model and an open source curriculum with them. We invest in strategic cohorts of 5 startups at a time, 100K check. We're not just investing in these cohorts, in the startups, but in the founders as individuals. These are not isolated ventures. They're ecosystemic. We're building things that are both independent and co-creating an ecosystem together. And we can actually help these founders create a self-DAO where they can put their future income and their net worth into a treasury that can have multiple beneficiaries, people, the planet itself, organizations they care about, to incentivize an entire ecosystem to help these founders. Because we know if we invest in them deep, that they will create a successful venture at some point. Maybe not this one, maybe not the next, but in the next 30 years, these are the founders of the future. And we can give them access to the corporate members that give them demand through this structure, because there are so many corporates trying to figure out how to hit their innovation targets, how to hit their net zero goals, and we can help them with an annual membership. We can build an expert advisory council to fill in the gaps of knowledge on both the Web3 and the climate side. And the beautiful part about all of this is that it's in person. You're actually sitting with these people every single day. You can go out and retreat with them. You can deep dive, and you can figure out how to solve problems in real time. So let's keep rolling. Here's an initial thought of a potential cohort. I introduced some of these ideas. The Refi DApp, the kind of super app, a WeChat for the regenerative economy. You can build that as a standalone, create the knowledge graph on the back end powered by AI as a standalone. You can build the Refi passport as an identity solution with stamps and coordination mechanisms as a standalone. You can create the Open Heart Studio, the physical place with the digital app that allows you to access meditation, mindfulness, coaches, guides, people to help you grow your inner goals. And then of course, TDF, but refied with capital flows and a vibrant global community accessing to see that place be built out and come to life so that we can have thousands of people accessing this every year. Maybe there's a different cohort to come, but this would be sweet, I think. And so where do you capture all these stories from? There's going to be all this amazing content coming out. People's lives being changed through the healing process, amazing insights as advisors connect with early first-time founders. We create a culture studio. It's a separate independent business, but we capture it with super high quality audio and video. We support the storytellers of tomorrow, and it's network owned. We don't have to sell advertisements. We don't have to harvest people's attentions. We can respond to the local nodes and their needs and create localized contextual content for that community. And yes, if this all comes together, our venture studio investing in cohorts at a time, an AI-powered knowledge graph, having a map of regeneration around the entire globe, a culture studio capturing the best culture, media, and events and propagating it in near real time, and local nodes in startup cities all over the world, we can regenerate the entire economy. All the attention harvesters, it's not really secret. We know what they've done. What they have is network effects, but we can beat it with deeper relationships and tightly knit communities and people with values who are deeply aligned. The Airbnbs and Ubers and Lyfts, same game. It's just network effects. We can beat this in localized communities, but do it in a regenerative way where everything is open source, community owned. And there's no extractive principles anywhere to be found. And these big fucking polluters that keep promising to invest in renewables, but invest hundreds of billions of dollars per year in fossil fuels, fuck them. We got our own renewable energy microgrids. We got our own systems coming. Clean energy for the future tomorrow. Fusion is on the way. So what if we had this Cambrian explosion of startups, novels, art, even babies coming out of this, community, movies, music, and yes, lots and lots of failures. This is going to be so much fun. And so here it is. We want to scale this. We're building it in Lisbon, but we want to pair every global North city with a global South city and help them fundraise. The next Gitcoin round is April 25th. We've got a $25,000 match funding pool specifically for local nodes coming. We'd love to help people raise funds together so that we can balance the network effects of a global North and a global South city, splitting the proceeds between the two. These are just some suggested pairings. We've got applications open, but imagine if we funded these 8 cities in these pairs, what kind of amazing relationships would be made if the founders in Lisbon and Sao Paulo were hanging out together, Berlin and Bogota sharing information, open source software, Miami and Bangalore propagating culture together. This is the regenerative future of tomorrow. We cannot leave developing nations behind. They're key to this. And so if you are interested in creating a local node in your city, we still have applications open. Some of the content didn't make it through. We've shown people in Costa Rica, people in Hong Kong, people in Sao Paulo, gathering together their application as a community. So check this out, bit.ly/refi prize, and you can scan the QR code here. Because really what we're trying to do is move away from this business as usual degenerative to create the systems and relationship networks of trust to move us beyond sustainable crap, because it's not good enough, and to a restorative and regenerative future. And actually, this climate emergency is an amazing gift. It is an accelerant that is forcing us to think new ways, to deconstruct the core structures of nations and corporations, and to realize actually how we can meet this global consensus of the Paris climate agreements. It's a massive $100, $200, $300 trillion opportunity, many times the size of the US economy. There are huge multi-thousand billion-dollar industries waiting to be disrupted at the behest of these new tools: public ledgers, AI, open data, open science, decentralized physical device networks, remote sensors, privacy tech. Everything is here. The capital is ready to be deployed. We just need to create the systems and communities of trust. But for me, this is not about seeing the first trillionaire come out of climate. This is not about seeing, billion-dollar companies emerge and venture scale returns. I really don't care. This is an opportunity to redesign what it means to be human, because we have seen the effect of this story of separation. The invisible hand that says we are individuals that are motivated by our self-interest, that we live and we die. And that's all there is. The story is done. It's run its course. The time on this story is running out. We've seen its effects with 8 billion people on the planet. We've degraded most of the soil, most of the living seas. Plastic is floating in hundreds of millions of tons. We're reaching an atmospheric concentration of carbon dioxide that's tipping us into a state of volatility with ecosystem collapse on the rise. No drinking water for many people and killing most of life in the last 40 years. This is the effect of this story. So it's time to write a new story. The story of regeneration that's founded in radically different ideas. And if you don't believe them now, just imagine you're reading a piece of fiction. What if we're not separate? What if we as people are both an individual and a whole? What if we as a planet are one beautiful living species of life? What if you're not random? What if you were born to belong? That each of us have a unique gift, a unique contribution to the symphony of regeneration. You don't have to do the whole thing. No one can orchestrate it all. It's just all of our job to find our instrument that expresses our unique gifts, and to stay in time, and to stay in tune, and the harmony will arise. We've been very, very fortunate to see this movement, this story emerging both online and in person, reaching over 50,000 people with downloads and Refi podcasts, supporting hundreds of founders through Refi DAO circles, hosting out over 35 events through Refi Spring, and converging in Lisbon with the first local node and the first annual meeting before COP. This is the vision of a network state to regenerate the earth, a prototype of a new organizational model that can accelerate all of humanity to reach the Paris targets. With the digital passport and local nodes, we can run a census on chain and say we're 10,000, 100,000 strong. Introduce the Refi token as a global currency that honors local governance and sovereignty. And we can receive diplomatic recognition at COP as a new entity integral to the just transition, because we showcase it every single year. Refi Lisboa, Refi Miami, Refi Sao Paulo showing up with the Ministry of Environment and Ministry of Finance in every country where we exist as partners. So this is our opportunity in your city. What would you do with $1 million with you and your friends? Who would you serve? How would you allocate capital? How would you engage public, private, and third sector partners to create a unified regeneration in your city? And how might you engage indigenous leaders and land stewards to understand their cultures and build a startup community with them at the core? This is our journey. It's going to be a long one. We see a 33-year path to regeneration. It's not going to be easy, but we'd love to do it with you. Meet you in person, ignite the fire of regeneration in your heart, gather together, celebrate life, and build this new society, one village at a time. Thanks.
Let's fucking go.
Let's
I'm ready.
go.
Thanks. What's coming
Thank you,
up?
John. Thank you. Thank you. So this is a beautiful vision. And I really appreciate how I've seen and recognized you providing the opportunity for people to step into that inner regeneration before we start to think about our responsibilities externally. And this gives us a lot of opportunity to be reflective. Some of the things that often come up, though, in our journeys is a certain amount of fear. Fear that technology is a tool on the one hand, but when used in a certain way, it can be a terrible master. So with the adoption of these types of technologies, what can you speak to that helps people recognize that, yes, on the one hand, it is more technology, and then on the same time, it could be put to good use? Because I often see this as a challenge for many people.
Yeah, super, super interesting question. So technology is a tool, right? It in itself has no moralistic paradigm. When we intend to use technology, it expresses our intention. And I do think that this is representative of what's happening in our time. Web3 has propagated a lot of fucking extractive scams because the people who've used the tools want to. And because we have a culture of desire that tells us more is better, more for us is better, and we're willing to have less for others. And so my take is that there's a complex combination of factors. A lot of it is regulatory. We do need clear parameters and guidelines, checks and balances, standards to be able to safeguard these experiments. But we also need, I think, to be really honest about our true intentions. Are we actually here to regenerate the earth? Or do we want to get rich while like doing some good things and looking cool in the process? I thought for me that I wanted to regenerate the earth. I get into clean it out, throw a bunch of money into it. Nah, I just want to get fucking rich and look cool while doing it. And I got wrecked because I should have done. I invested in a hollow Ponzi scheme. And this, I think, is really a mirror to our entire society. It's like, how much do you want this? There are these really powerful tools where you can redesign money, where you can make money aware, that money can be conscious of its environmental and social impact. Imagine that, how powerful that story is. Money's been dumb, unaware, unconscious for all of history. And we now, with these tools, can make money aware. And this, I think, is the most powerful tool of our time. And we have to use it really carefully and wisely. And to make small experiments before we go big and throw billions into it. Like, I think this is stewardship.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have any questions from the audience?
Alan's got one. This is nice.
Sorry, a second.
Alan's got one. This is nice. Can I take that? Yeah, Jeremy. Cool. So Alan's question is nice. He goes, what happens when CBDCs come and ban all altcoins? All right, this is coming. Like, this will be a war. And this is why we are building sovereign internet at the core of these local nodes. So this company and this infrastructure already exists. It's called Threefold. They've done it in several countries in Africa. It's $2.5 million capex, and you can provide 200,000 people stable internet. And it's separate from the local internet. We need our own energy sources. We need renewable energy microgrids. We need to set up resilient systems, because there will be a point where the old world goes, no way. And we've got to have our own validators. We've got to have our own energy access. We need to have access to some of our own food supply. Like, I really do think that this is a legitimate future in certain jurisdictions. In others, it won't happen. But I think it's also another really important piece as we build these early experiments to get very strong allies in local and regional and national government, to make them successful in the eyes of their constituents. And this is really key, because if we come at this as an adversary, then they're going to chop it down. So it's a delicate measure for sure. I'll go with you, Eileen. Take it.
And thank you so much, John. I did get chills on many occasions when you were speaking there. Number one, what I'll say, you know, I work with different communities in Ecuador, which is where I'm from originally. And some of the people trying to protect forest actually have to have their phones switched off in another room so the government can't like find out what they're trying to do. And there's all sorts of ways that people still have to do this regenerative work undercover because of the government's alliance with the mining companies or the oil companies. So having separate internet, having, they have to use the dark web a lot, or now I know some people are providing satellites, especially for people on the ground doing this work, which is amazing. So I get really excited about being able to support people on the ground that way through this kind of model. And I love the idea that it is pairing cities in the global south, because, I was speaking to one of my contacts who's very good at protecting land in Ecuador, but he's like, the economy is about to crash. Like as soon as there's scarcity, crime rises, and forget protecting nature, So also really supporting any of these countries and communities with a model, an economical model that works for that is so important, because any kind of conservation efforts can go out the window the moment the government is struggling with too much debt. Lastly, if someone wants to set something like this up, let's say I want to twin 2 cities and I'll set this up, what's the next steps for someone that's wanting to bring this to one of their cities?
Cool. So 3 questions. Number 1, how do you protect people who are doing the work of regeneration in hostile jurisdictions? Yeah. And then number 2, this was like, what happens when these local governments or these national governments effectively collapse and enter into a high scarcity environment? And number 3 is, what if I want to build a local node or twin cities together? Number 3 is super easy. So there's an application link in the deck that I shared. And I can, if it didn't work, I can share it again. But yeah, you just follow us on Twitter. We're twitter.com/RefiDaoist. And there's a link in our bio right there. And basically the application is a little bit long, but all we're looking for is just like, okay, who are you? Do you really know the problems in your city? And do you have a community of founders? Because this is really key, that these local nodes have to be entrepreneur led. And if you're not a founder, that's cool, but it's important that you find other entrepreneurs that can come in it with you. So that's the 3rd one. The first one, I'll say, like, protecting people, like, this is super, super important. And I'm also very conscious, I'm a white male who grew up in the global north. I have lived in the global south in very hostile regions, but I have never, known anyone or been inflicted with violence as a result of this, but I know lots of people have. And I think it's a sad and unfortunate reality, but we do need protection as we set up these cities and villages within cities. And there are actually, people who are willing to do this work and to really create intelligent systems of how to protect these people who are, standing up for regeneration in an extractive world. And so Dr. Sam, who runs these open heart ceremonies, has been working with a lot of veterans, basically opening their heart, helping heal trauma. And it's amazing seeing veterans enter into this regenerative story and say, like, I'm here to protect you, because it's sad, but like this is the world we live in. And so, yeah, I'm very conscious that this is how it is. So I just say proceed carefully. Yeah, satellite, internet as a protection is super sensible, and you've just got to stick together, make a tribe that knows and loves each other and can, protect. And the second one around sovereign debt is really, really fascinating, because you look at Suriname, which is an island state that is incredibly rich in natural capital. And it has this massive opportunity for ecosystem services, right? And the local and the national government, it's kind of the same thing, has been subjected to really horrible sovereign debt terms. You're talking like terms that no individual would ever take debt on, for hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. And actually, there is something called a credit enhancement, where the IMF and the World Bank will give you a better debt term if you do specific sustainability things for people on the planet. And so I think we can really shift the mindset of these governments and say, like, look, you're paying 15% debt right now on, $46 billion. We can provide a credit enhancing project in this forest using digital measurement, reporting, and verification. But you have to move away from the mining industry and you'll get this % reduction on your sovereign debt bills in return. That saves you this much money over the next 3 years, right? And you can celebrate this with your constituents by reducing taxes. Like, you've got to really understand the political game here that people are playing and shift the proposition into their favor, because these are all people lobbying for power, right? They got there because they're lobbying for power. And actually understanding sovereign debt mechanisms, credit enhancement, natural capital, like all of these new emerging markets is really important for creating these local structures. So sorry for the rabbit trail, but like, this is, this is the game.
Thank you. That's really awesome. And I take it you guys hold all of that information also within your network, because this is the other thing I'm kind of getting excited by as you speak, is like, okay, you know all this, and that's actually useful. I didn't know all that, because I work with the government as well. Like, the national government wants to work with me, and I can, sometimes suggest different things, and that's, and I've said to them sometimes, you give me more ways to do work and I'll bring you some of the best thinkers, or I'll bring you some of the best folks in the world figuring this out,
You're creating a local noder guild. So the nodes that we bring into this program, we will have the node founders meet regularly, like once a week or every other week or once a month. And you can meet and connect with these other founders. And we're anonymously recording this information and basically uploading it, the transcripts, to ChatGPT, and being able to have this repository accessible for founders who are looking for who's working with credit enhancement or who's working with Ministry of Environment. And I think this will snowball over a period of time where we can create a really pioneering knowledge set that enables people who are on the ground solving these problems, which have never been solved before, to get that marginal compound gain.
Amazing. Thank you. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question.
Awesome.
We have another question coming through from Davi Lemos. How do we build villages within cities when the cities themselves are stale and disconnected from nature? How do we reconnect to the environment in places where most of the environment has been killed?
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So for me, there's a city heart center and there's a nature heart center. And I'm just taking this from the architecture of what's happening in Lisbon. Like, I really do see TDF as the nature heart center for the local node in Lisbon. And we're building an urban heart center in Lisbon at Open Hearts Lisboa. And okay, it's not green and it's not lush. And yes, the city is a concrete jungle, but you can still build a village of relationships of people who deeply know each other, are meeting regularly, supporting each other. And I think this is the core feature of this architecture, is you gather in person with the, energy rich environment of the city, and you can go retreat into nature, into that beautiful context, and put your hands in the soil and have a balance of those environments. And so this is just our hypothesis. Like, maybe it'll look different in Sao Paulo, but it is a challenge of how to balance these different things. And like, yeah, how do you reconnect the environment in spaces most of it's been killed? Like, this is the work of regeneration. We got to plant tens of thousands of trees. We got to bring in water. We got to bring in wildlife and take a long-term, multi-generational approach to this. And, it's going to be a while, but it's beautiful. If you've ever planted trees, you've ever seen it grow, you've ever seen birds come that haven't come before, like, this is the heart song that we all need. So let's go.
Can I something really quickly? Sorry, really quickly, because I trained in architecture, there's actually a real architectural movement towards regenerating cities. So in most of Europe and the US, you'll have a local architect that's taken this on, and you should be able to Google them. They're kind of everywhere in Europe. It's a growing movement in the architecture sector, and there's also neuroscience coming in to support the aesthetics of cities in that way. So just Google it, and you'll find your architects doing this.
Thanks, Eileen.
Thanks to the regenerative future. Love it.
I have a question here from Kirtan.
Yeah, bro.
Thanks, guys. Really grand stuff. Real quick, what's the best baby step to get people to show that they're part of our side? Is it to follow you on Twitter? Is it to sign something? Because a lot of people aren't ready for a huge investment, but they're ready to show that they want to support this kind of change.
Yo, orbify your profile, man. The Refi orb, the orb of regeneration. It's a signal to the world that you belong to a new story. That's one way. The other way is just go plant some fucking trees, man, and tell your friends about it. you know, like whatever's easy for you, whatever you want to do, we'd love to celebrate that. And there's an online community, there's a local community. We meet regularly in cities all around the world. So come hang out. I've already given you a hug because I saw you at the last one, but next time I'll give you another.
One of the aspects that we're looking to do with Rebuild is help people from cities discover all of the projects that is happening, all the regenerative villages that are happening within the country that they live in, help getting people from cities and into nature. And that discovery process is like the source of the river. A lot of people are in cities and a lot of people are suffering. And so how do we then help them discover all of the amazing projects that are out there? And I think both are very necessary. We can't just say that people living in the cities are doing anything wrong. They are choosing a life, and it's the life that they have right there. So it's providing them the opportunity for discovery. And I think that this is a great way to be able to do that.
Yo, let's bring that into the ecosystem map for the next event. Carolina wants to do a big map of all the regenerative projects in Portugal so that we can map it out, start to go visit and learn the problems that these folks are facing. Because like, you know, cities need nature, people need it, it's healing, you know, the evidence is clear. You look at forest bathing, Shurin-yoku in Japan, it's like you stress down a city, go just for a fucking walk in nature for half an hour, like you'll feel better because like, you know, it's really that simple. So hopefully we can get more folks out there.
There's a couple of really interesting platforms to follow. One of them's in Denmark, related to architecture, cities, future cities. And then the other one is actually architectural fringe in Scotland. Scotland's got some of the most progressive laws for community projects anywhere, because communities can stop developers building things if they see a specific building or a piece of land as a community asset. They can take the developer to court. And there's a lot of funding streams to help. I've worked in a number of community buildings built mostly in the islands of Scotland, built from funding from the lottery fund, and also just mothers getting together and designing it with the architect and seeing it right through to the end as a community asset and managing it. So everyone also manages it as a community, but Scotland's got some amazing legislation around this, and people have been doing it for a while. You've got a number of projects you could look up as well in that sense. And because it's cool to see the government can actually support this. There's funding. You don't have to always do it the alternative route and find in private investment. There's starting to be funding routes through government initiatives.
100%.
To give you a perspective on government financing on renewable energy, United Nations, agreed to give 100 billion each year to underdeveloped nations during Paris Agreement. And how much is delivered? It's just 20 to 30 billion a year. So government is not able to provide the whole financial requirement for renewable energy developments. So that's why we need private investment to come to this field, and providing Web3 solutions for doing that is the best option in my opinion. And that's why I am building my company, which is similar to what John is doing here.
Sweet, bro. Loving it.
We have a question from Mark Jason. I'd love to talk about finding legal mechanisms for credit enhancement, democratized investment.
Content.
Sorry, I'm actually looking for a link here that describes this. A buddy of mine, Gordon Gould, has been sending me some cool stuff from naturefinance.net. So yeah, the role of credit enhancement and sovereign sustainability linked debt issuance. Check this out. This could be an interesting one for you, sir. Mark, I will send it to all, but this is a reference that talks about, like, very recently some interesting instruments. And like, I think we can't skate around the securities stuff. Like, we just got to play game and do it properly. Like, I think this is a slow route, but we've got to build it right. So I think a lot of the Web3 space loves to just sort of be like, nah, it's not a security, JK. Like, they won't find out. And I think in the process, we might find ourselves getting caught up field down the road. So yeah, not my expertise, but good question. And I wish I could go into it more, but that reference is really all I got, sir.
Well, thank you for all the brilliance, John. Really inspired
by what you're saying and the deep thought you've given everything. And yeah, I have a lot of experience as a lawyer, entrepreneur, and also in Web3.
Nice.
And I agree with you. You know, a lot of people are either just ignoring security laws or trying to be really cute, and this is too important. And we just have to find a way to either be in compliance or find a way where, you know, we can do what we want to do while not violating securities laws. And so I'm here to help, you know, in that regard. Would love to connect with all of you and really make this happen and do the analysis and bring in the network that is necessary for credit enhancement, for public-private partnerships and everything else. So I'm really excited to be part of this.
Amazing, dude. Well, yeah, it sounds like you and Eileen should chat. She's got connections with government, and you know, if you know about this stuff, it'd be amazing. And if you're ever in Portugal, man, come visit. Third Thursday of every month we meet.
Oh yeah, I've definitely got to get out to Portugal. I sent you a link on LinkedIn, so let's definitely connect and dive deeper.
Good man, super fun. Oh, it's a great honor to see all the beautiful people showing up to this community today. Sweet.
Right, I think we have time for one
All
more
right.
question. If you use government money here, you are constricted by government regulation. So how do you navigate that? Is it a bridge and that's something that can be replaced? Is it a necessary evil, or are we will we be confining ourselves in the future if we take that type of investment?
Yeah, I think like if you're operating in a jurisdiction, you're restricted by government regulation anyway. Like you got to obey by the laws because they can use military force, police force to tell you not to. You know, I think this is the reality of our condition. And so whether or not you take their money, I think, you know, yes, there's always going to be awkward strings attached. But I think for me, the idea of having a government partner who really wants to see it succeed because they've got their reputation on the line is actually quite an interesting incentive mechanism and paradigm, because if you can make them look successful in the eyes of their constituents, you then have a different power dynamic. And so I think like, you know, I spent 3.5 years building software for city and state governments at a startup called Peak Democracy that was acquired by OpenGov. And, you know, they've got like 3,500 cities in different municipalities in the US that use their software to engage their citizens on, you know, here's our budget, here's our strategic initiative. What do you think about this new, you know, education program? Like really building the tools that help governments, you know, govern more effectively. And so I think if we can shift our lens of like, oh, government being an adversary and actually being like, hey, how can we help them? How do we help understand their biggest problems and their biggest pain points and their route to re-election and really become an ally for them? I think things can look really different. So that's at least how I'm approaching it.
Thank you, John. If there's one thing you'd like to leave us with, what would that be?
Healing is the heart of regeneration. Each and every one of us has trauma. If you were born, you have trauma. If you've been in relationship, you have trauma. And that trauma affects us all in different ways, but it affects us in a way that prevents us from being really connected to our heart center and our truest potential. And so if you have something niggling at you, a weird behavior or a root of bitterness, anger, a lack of forgiveness, hatred, anxiety, whatever it is, face it and heal. There are amazing tools, amazing healers, amazing technologies, amazing medicines. Don't be afraid, go for it, because on the other side of that healing process, you'll reconnect with the most profound part of you that has the keys to this future. And this for me was my biggest unlock this week, was like, okay, all right, technology is one thing, but healing is the core. And so I really invite all of you to do the work, to heal your heart and see the beautiful harmony that arises on the other side.
Wonderful. I love that. Yeah, it's very true. It's not our fault that traumas happen, but it's our responsibility to see what we're going to do about it on behalf of our brothers, our sisters, our daughters, our sons, our mothers, our fathers, and everybody on this planet. Thank you, John, for a very inspiring talk. It's been amazing.
My pleasure, y'all.
We're so happy to be on this journey with you. And thank you, everybody, for coming along, for your wonderful questions. We hope you are inspired as I am and feel like you can join this journey with open hearts and open minds, and we can continue this refi revolution together. Thank you very much, John.
Awesome. Join us at the prosperity panel in 20 minutes, y'all, with a 90-minute panel going into some of these people pioneering this stuff. So hope to see you in a bit. I'm going to go put my feet up for 20 and rest, and we'll see y'all around. Thanks, Jeremy. You're the man. Give love to the TDF fam. Bye, everybody.